right.
Here we are.
Back in this.
Back in the saddle again.
So, we've talked about this before, but I think there's a lot to talk about with this social introvert, creative extrovert. So the reason I was thinking about it was, I mean, like I said, we've talked about like I've had experiences where people are like, oh man, like I don't ever hear you say anything. And then you get on stage, I'm like, whoa, like who is the? And I'm just like, all right, calm down. Like it's not that big a deal. So I was like, okay, what is that? What is that moment of revelation for people, or that moment of awe where they're like, I thought you were this. So when I see this, like I completely don't understand. So what I think, well, first thing I think of is like, okay, that just shows me how, like Susan Cain talks about, there's this ideal extrovert that people are taught to follow after. Because if they look at you and they say, I don't see you talk, and then I see you talk, that means they're comparing you to how you are in the social realm. Like they're used to you in the social realm, and when they see you talk somewhere else, they're like, I just thought you didn't talk ever. It's kind of like you say to people, like when they're like, oh, I was just testing to see if you were going to be a mean kind of guy. I'm glad you're not. Like they've already got this kind of vision of you. And so it's not like people, when they see me in the creative realm, that they never say like, oh, you're so creative. Like they obviously, when they see me in the creative realm, oh yeah, Bernard, he's creative. But specifically, people don't comment necessarily on the creative part. They comment on the talking part, right?
Okay.
You know, it's like, you're so quiet, but there you talked a lot. So it's not like they're shocked that I'm creative. I mean, there may be part of that. If you've never seen someone perform before, you're like, oh, I didn't know you had that in you. Like, wow, I didn't know you did that. But it's particularly people are focused on the fact that you didn't say words when they knew you at work or at a just gathering. But then when you're on stage, they're like, how are you able to say so many words? And how are you able to put all this together? You were so organized and so articulate, blah, 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 blah. So that just got me thinking even more this week about that creative extrovert. So I think there's a lot that we should explore, and like, what does it mean to be a creative extrovert? And those two words coming together, just I feel like there's a lot of energy there, like creativity and extroversion. I think there's just like a power packed combo there. So the first thing I was going to say was, I think a lot of times when we hear the word extrovert, people see, as I said, like Susan Cain, like that's the thing you're supposed to be, right? So if someone refers to you as an extrovert, it's almost like a compliment, like, oh, you see me. So introverts can go around feeling like when someone calls me an extrovert, oh, it's a compliment. You know, they don't see me as the abnormal introvert. You know, they don't see me as the shamed introvert. They see me as so it already has like a positive connotation to it, which is not right, but it just does. But like merge that with creativity. I think there's something interesting about the thing people like about extroversion, which is that energy, that like outgoingness, that ability just to like go talk to people, that ability to seem kind of fearless. So I guess what's interesting is maybe with the extrovertedness part, which seems kind of fearless, like, man, you can just go up and talk to people, that's crazy. But there's also that creativity, which we talk about, which makes us feel kind of fearless. Like, man, how can you just get on the stage? Like,
Yeah.
how can you just do that? So it's almost like a double impact of fearlessness. Like if your creativity makes you kind of fearless, and then that extrovertedness, fearlessness are coming together, I think there's just
Right.
something super attractive about that.
Yeah. I think it makes me think of the freestyle portion. That whole way that you framed it is like, when you think of freestyle, people will say you're fearless, to use that word, right? Like, wow, that's so brave. You're getting up there freestyle. You don't know what you're going to say, but not remembering the countless other times that we freestyled before. So to me, the category in my head, when I'm naming the few things that I'm expert on in the world, freestyle is one of them. Um, you know, I believe with 100% of my heart, I'm world class freestyler, you know? So I have no fear at something that I'm world class at. It's not, I'm not a
Right.
the opposite of fear. It's like, I can't wait to do it. I'm really good at this. Like, this is going to have all kinds of positive benefits, right? I can't wait to, you know, inspire you with my confidence of my freestyle ability that I know people value, or find interesting or amusing or entertaining or whatever the word is. And then when we do rehearsed rhymes, I mean, that's only even more magnified. In fact, I worry more about rehearsed rhymes because sometimes I might forget a line or two that I don't have down perfectly. You know, I feel like it's a little more pressure. Freestyle, I feel like there's less pressure. And the more you do freestyle, the more that braveness replaces any fear or doubt. You know, yeah, I don't know what the number is, how many times you have to do it, but after you put in a certain amount of hours, I mean, what's the worst that can happen? I mean, I still have a little butterfly feeling if I'm freestyling to a huge audience because of that element of the unknown, right? Like we all know we can hit a 10 so often, right? I'm 10 out of 10 so often. Maybe my percentage is like 50% of the time. Like this is like an unbelievable freestyle. And then there's that other 30% of the time where it's pretty good, you know, and then there's a 20% of the time you're like, my gosh, that was just not doing it, you know, and I don't know if those are the right percentages, but there is that little, you know, fear and trepidation, but it's so massively replaced by by the boldness or the braveness, as you're saying. um, so I think it's sometimes a misnomer or just a miscategorizing of what we're doing. I mean, this is rehearsed. It may not be the exact same thing. It's just like when we speak on a stage, right? At some point, your comfort level public speaking is enhanced. And it doesn't matter what you're speaking about because your methodology to prepare for that thing is somewhat similar to the point where there almost is no preparation at some point. I just got out of a room on Clubhouse where I was listening to some NASA scientists because that's what I do. And the gentleman who's in there, he's a NASA consultant. Actually, Marvel will consult him. He's one of those guys, right? Where Marvel will consult him on the math and the physics in the movies. You know, like Iron Man's getting hit by a rocket and we're supposed to think like the momentum of the rocket like didn't cause Iron Man to like turn into splatter on the other side of his suit kind of thing. And these kind of people go in and they'll talk about what would happen, what kind of invention you need to come up with, what have you. So he's in there talking and he's using the same sort of analogy, but he's talking about when he's asked to do lectures. This lady was like, "Oh, how do you prepare?" and all this stuff. And I'm thinking about us, you know, doing the same thing too. And I couldn't believe the number he threw out, Bernard. He goes, "Take a guess how long," he said, "he prepares for a speech." Just throw out anything. This is a keynote at a pretty big deal. You know, he's like a NASA big guy, right? So he gets asked to do some big deal ones. What do you think his preparation time is? If you just had to guess.
I don't know, 100 hours.
9 months. I was like, "No,
All
what?
right.
My wife can have a baby in 9 months." I'm like, "What are you talking about, 9 months?" I was like, 9 months, and they were trying to ask him like, "How do you know all this stuff? You seem so, you know, basically to our point, off the top of your head." And he's like, "No." He goes, "Let me tell you how much I read." Right? And so I was listening to his reading level, and I was comparing it to like my watching TV level. Like, I mean, he was like, he's like, "Yeah, when I go to bed," he goes, "I usually try to get to bed 2 hours ahead every night. Like I do that on like reading night." You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Let's do it. Like I might read twice a week before I go to bed, you know, and that's just, yeah. Like when I'm talking an actual book, I'm not talking about internet or phone stuff or whatever, right? I'm like, when I'm sitting down with a book I want to finish, it's probably twice a week. There's other times during the day, but he's talking about going to bed. He's like his bedtime routine. Every 2 hours, he's reading part of his book. And I'm like, damn, I'm like 2 hours every single night. I can't stay faithful to that. I mean, if I read 5 hours a week of a physical book, I'm feeling pretty good about myself. You know, like I'm like, oh, I did my 5 hours of my book. Now I got books all over the place, but I can truthfully say I'm typically in the 2 hour range. You know, this dude's doing 2 hours in one day. But so you think about how polished he comes off. And he's like, "Oh no, I've been thinking about this stuff because if I get asked to do a keynote, I'm 8 or 9 months lead time." And he's like, "So
Wow.
of course it's going to seem like I really know my stuff because I'm," he goes, "But you do one of those and all the back research that you had to do for 9 months, that's going to carry over into a whole bunch of other kind of topics that you're going to do."
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, and it's also going to carry into your other lectures. So do you really have to do 8 or 9 times each month? I mean, I was going to ask him that, saying, you know, someone who's done some fair share of speaking. um, I've probably prepared the most for anything in my life has been like 3 months. Um, in terms of like any kind of public speaking or performance, and it's in pieces. It's just so I don't have to, do it all at the last second kind of thing. I just couldn't believe that. But I'm like, man, anybody can be confident if you spend it 9 months, 8 months. And then I was like, oh, well, that's kind of smart, But you think about it, how much have you prepared to freestyle? How much have you prepared to
Right.
perform? I'm sure the hours are ridiculously similar. It's just spread out over more time because you're not doing, keynote freestyles every 3 months. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, I guess as you're talking, it's making me think of, it's like if you were to think about introvert and extrovert is like a tree. It's almost like the introvert is the roots and the seeds and the trunk and that sort of stable foundation that allows the rest of the tree to branch out and kind of be free. So like we've talked about before, like if you're an introvert, you're taking in information, you're storing it, like, ooh, idea,
Mhm. Mhm.
conversation, song, ooh, documentary. So you're storing all this stuff
Yep.
so that when it comes time to be on a stage, that
Right.
tree
It's like
trunk
the acorn
has
storage.
really, it's like, yeah, it's anchored in something of substance. And then people see the tree or the tip of the iceberg and they're like, oh, this is incredible. And you're like, yeah, but there's a lot of work going on down beneath.
Absolutely.
Um, what's interesting, I remember one time I was thinking about one time actors lately. I've been listening to this guy on Clubhouse who talks about acting. He's incredible because he's very philosophical and he's basically like, you need to be yourself. I was like, yeah, like he's saying everything I always say, like be yourself, explore yourself. He's like, this is why people can't act. He's like, this is why we have mediocre actors. People can't find the like imagination and bring it out to life. I'm like, yeah. So I was thinking one time about acting. I was like, man, how do people get up there and just improv? I was like, how do they get on stage? I mean, I could do it to a certain degree,
I love improv.
but after a while, I would just kind of, I don't know. I could do it, but it wouldn't be like riveting where you'd be like, oh my goodness, like I got to keep listening to this. It'd be like I could keep talking.
Yep.
But they said the way that a good person does improv is that they have enough like backstory source material that they've like absorbed so that the free improv is based off of that. And I was like, oh, I get that idea because I could do that myself, like not playing a character. But if
Yep.
somebody said, Bernard, get on stage and talk about styrofoam, I could just go because I could be like, yeah, styrofoam, when those little beads come off.
Could you really
And I
talk
was,
about styrofoam?
yeah,
Really?
I do it. Like, yeah, like okay. So styrofoam. Right now, I'm thinking about in my room. I've had this MIDI
I have
keyboard.
nothing. I have nothing.
But it's like you're saying about the guys. Like, okay, so styrofoam. When I think about styrofoam, I also
It's an
think
oil
about
byproduct, right? Like
when
that's
I
all I
was
got.
when I was in school, they brought us the little astronaut. Speaking of astronauts, see,
Right.
weaving it in, they brought in the little ice cream that astronauts eat, and they say, yeah, it's kind of like styrofoam. So you take
Right.
that open, you unzip the pouch. So there's a lot of things with styrofoam. It's supposed to be non-biodegradable. Think about the word biodegradable. Biodegradable. Degrade. Bio, such an interesting word. Biodegrade. So when those little pieces and chunk of styrofoam fall off, they're all over the place, and you think, man, I should be cleaning this up. But you're also thinking, I really want my packages to get delivered. I also get these coolers delivered. See, I could keep going because my mind is associating different things. I'm not just going styrofoam, foam of styro, pack like.
Yeah,
So
I'm at a
I could,
pretty much of a dead end though with styrofoam. Like styrofoam is particularly a dead end for me.
but
I'm like,
I picked something random to show like
no,
how I could do
absolutely,
it. I
absolutely,
just
yeah.
picked something because the key is, see, I got to just learn how to translate this to acting because I would like to get more into acting after.
I love I love that side of it though. Like for me, the improv is like a one-to-one with freestyling.
So I can do that because, as I just said, I stored up a treasure trove of
Yeah,
documentaries.
yeah,
Like I let my mind go to weird places. I can't.
right.
I can't. Oh, I can't. What a word today is like imagination plus geography. So it's like a magography,
Imaginography,
a
imaginography,
magography.
right?
So it's like I've allowed myself to roam the territory of my landscape in my mind, places I may never go again, places I don't need to
You
go.
look like Gabriel, by the way, in that pose right there. I just wanted you to know. You get the pillows matching you. Just
Um,
the headphones look like it was just it was cool.
so
Speaking of which,
I know this because a lot of people who say like, "Well, who would think of that?" Like I get that a lot. Where it's like, "Who thinks of that?" I was like, "Well, I do." Like I think about the most. Now I won't say random, but the most when people say, "Oh, you're out there," I'm like, "Yeah, I've gone out there in
Yep.
my mind.
Yep.
I've gone to that
You're
the
way out there, Bernard.
yeah,
Yeah.
I go I'm an expeditioner of the mind, and so I take these journeys. I go around places that people
Yep.
would never go to. I bring back these
Yep.
new ideas, and so if you say, "Hey, Bernard, can you talk about styrofoam?" I'm not pulling from some random thing. I can just connect,
Right.
connect, 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 and some people are like, "Oh, where's this going?" Or, "This is just funny," but I could bring it back full circle too. Like, I could bring it back to the
Full
point
circle. See
where you
what you did there? Yeah.
where people are like, "How did you do that so funny?" It's like, because 'cause I'm not working from like you're saying, I'm not working from now. The story I'm creating on stage or on this podcast is the now, but I've done the work.
Done the work.
And
Yeah.
that's what's so interesting about this guy on Clubhouse. He says he keeps telling the actors, "Trust your preparation."
That's right.
He's like, "You prepare." He's like, "Then when you
That's
go into the
yeah.
acting space," he's like, "From that point on, now it's about discovery and, like, you know,
Spur of the
the
moment kind of. Yeah.
spontaneous, but your
Yeah.
preparation
Right.
has given you the confidence that
Absolutely.
you can go freely and discover things."
Yeah, and if you don't, that's when you screw up. It's like whenever I start thinking in my head, that's why people say don't think, just do. And in basketball, it's a one for one too. People say that the slogan is trust the process, right? And that's the hashtag. It's like trust all those hours of preparation that you put in there and don't be thinking in the big moment. In the big moment, you should be reacting if you've done the right preparation. It's not to say you're not thinking. Of course you're thinking, but you're not thinking about your thinking at the meta level.
Right.
And if you do, it can be paralyzing. I'll tell you, I miss free throws every single time I start thinking about my form midway. I mean,
Yep.
if I hit like 20 straight, all of a sudden I start thinking about the next one. Go, oh wow, this is kind of a long streak. I wonder if I'm bending my knees enough to make sure that I get the net. And sure enough, I overbend my knees or something. And it's like, oh, what am I doing? Why did I do that? Now I never do that. In fact, I don't even count anymore. I used to count, and whenever I'd hit a big round number, I can miss the next one. And so, it's not because you're choking. People think like choking is like, oh, he's a choker. No, you're a thinker. Like you start thinking about the moment is when the phenomena of the choke occurs because you're being overly analytical on yourself. In improv, like I'm a big advocate in here of always saying I believe in nurture more than nature. I'm always saying it's the experiences and all this stuff. Nature plays a role, but if like I had to guess, I'm like 80-20, for it being nurture. However, I think there's something to this. I think there's something to when you think about like, okay, what kind of person are you? Are you somebody who could on the improvise end, and improvise is a close cousin to creativity in its purest form, right? Granted, you've put in what you're saying is and I believe the nurture thing, right? You've put in doing all the work is the nurture. You've done a lot of work, but there has to be a certain phenotype, right, in there who would even be willing to get up and say, I bet I'd be good at that because I never had any doubt with freestyling that I would be good at it. I had a little doubt if I'd be good the first time or not, but I could like feel inside of me that I could improv and freestyle. I would look at it, and I do this a lot. And I get myself in trouble because people will sound like you're saying, "Oh, you just think you're going to be an expert at this." No, the longer you know me, you'll know I don't think I'm an expert at much, but I can feel the things uh, that I think that I would naturally align with. Like I've been saying since I was a little kid, like a lot of little kids do, I would be the best ever birthday card designer. Like, I mean, if I was a greeting card writer, like I would be, the greatest greeting card writer. But then it's like, okay, I'd be a really good writer, rapper, punchline, comedy, freestyle, spoken word. It's like the thing about it is you're tapping into that body of resources on the spur of the moment, and you're good at letting go. I'm bad when I don't let go. I'm bad when I do think about it. If I do improv right now and I allow myself, we call it word association, me and Fee, when we freestyle, we call it our word association game is ridiculous. So is yours. I've heard you the first time you do it. You word associate. You let your mind go there, like you said, and then you delve into it and then you bring it back and then you're free to do, you do exactly what I do. It might be the rhyme this time that you're going to do
Right.
because your rhyme game is super solid. And then it might be your association with the body of knowledge that you know, because that's super solid. And now the humans that are watching can't tell what you're doing. It looks like a
Right.
magic trick when both of those are preparation. So I'm one of those just kind of people who believes that my preparation will shine through It's like faith in the preparation, faith in the process. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'll be great at improv because I've done the backs. Like I got so many disparate interests that I can
Right.
draw from them at any given time. And it's not that I'm, and I say it all the time, it's not that I'm an expert on really much. It's that I enjoy reading about how things work. I enjoy
Right.
finding a level of knowledge about something so that I'm comfortable with it. So I go, are you okay with why that spring worked? Like, are you okay that there's a battery in your car? Like, do you understand how the battery works? I don't know about you, but I have to figure out how the battery works to at least a layman's understanding, right? And
Right.
then you can draw on that at any time, like you're saying, like styrofoam. Like, by the way, I'm still claiming dead end on that one. But it's like if I
Yeah.
had to do styrofoam, I'm like, okay, styrofoam kind of looks like foam in the ocean, and
Right.
styrofoam floats and it's buoyant and it's the little white foam, like you're saying, the astronaut stuff. It kind of looks like,
Right.
ice cream. I think about packaging. I know it's an oil byproduct. It's funny that it's floating on the water and it is an oil byproduct. That's
Right.
about it. I'm done. Like that's everything. So when I freestyle about styrofoam, I'm hopping right off of it because I know to get off, and I better rhyme about styrofoam because I don't
Right.
know
Right.
much about
Right.
styrofoam. But even that ability is from practicing a freestyle and how to do this art that we're talking
Right.
about. You know what I mean? And we're comfortable with the preparation, which is classic introvert. And that's why I'm saying there's got to be something to that. The 80-20 thing I was talking about earlier. I think we realize in that 20% or whatever number you want to dub it, that yeah, that does apply to me. Like even though it's only 20% in the nature, my nature is that I know that with practice I can do anything. And I need my downtime to go do it when you're sleeping.
Right. Yeah, I'm thinking of a few things. One, I'm thinking about the very first time I freestyled. It
Oh
was in
gosh.
high
You can remember,
school.
huh?
I think yeah, it was that like impression on me. Because I had a friend named Jamar. He was just ridiculous. Like he was just
Mhm.
freestyle. So we were sitting at the table, and he was like, "Yo, come on, freestyle with us."
I
He was like,
guarantee
"Yo,
you're better than Jamar now, by the way.
I don't know, I don't know." He was pretty nice at
Do
ninth
you think what
grade.
is Jamar doing right now? Is
I don't know.
Jamar is
I've
Jamar
looked him
home
up.
freestyle?
I looked him up a few times. I haven't seen him rap, but he was pretty nice. Just off the cuff. I remember some of his lines too. I was like, "How's this?"
Peace to
Okay.
Jamar. Jamar, I'm not hating. I'm just doubting you've been putting in the work. That's it. A lot of
And
a
he
lot of
just had
people
that.
don't.
He had that
Mm,
raspy voice too, so he was just like the best in the
that's
school.
it.
But we were sitting there. But he always. That's the thing. He always like, "Yo, you tight too." I was like, so when he would like look up to me, I was like, "Oh, dang." Oh,
Right. Thought
but
it
I
was
remember we were
helpful.
sitting at lunch table. Everybody would do like the beats with the fists
Yeah.
and the can. So he was like, "Yo, come on, get on here." And I was like, "Ah." He's like, "Come on, man. I know I see you writing all the time. I know you could do it." And I was like, I remember what I said too. So I said some. I remember in my mind thinking distinctly like, "Yo." The reason I brought this up because you said something about like, "Yo, I just know I can do things." There was something in my mind that was like, these two things go hand in hand. Rappers can write and freestyle. I know that's what's supposed to happen. Like that's what the culture says. So
Mm,
I'm just gonna take this leap because I'm supposed to be able to do this somehow. And so I
mhm.
said, "Something, yo, we in the bank and we taking the Franks." That's the only thing I remember.
Wow.
And it was like nervous, but I just remember, yes. And when I did it too, I was like, why have I not done this before? It's not like I was scared. It's just like I just never done it. I never thought to myself, yo, I should freestyle. I don't even think I really knew freestyle for real as a thing.
Yeah.
So there's
And what it
that.
was. Yeah.
But the other thing that you made me think of was, okay, so I think all the stuff you're saying, one makes me think of, you were talking about freestyle and, well, I'm back. I'm trying to remember. Okay, so the other thing I want to say was freestyle, introvert, extrovert. I think you were talking about how, oh yeah, okay, like styrofoam, and you're like, oh, I can't think of styrofoam, so I'm gonna rhyme it. Okay, let's just get to the artisticness of it, because I was thinking about that this week. If you think about all kind of creativity, you can think about it as like, okay, I have this material, and then what can I do? I can slice it, or I can
Right.
like roll it, or I can smush it, or I can stretch it, or I can twist it. Like if you think about any
Sounds
kind
like a
of
bop it.
creative form, yeah, we're coming up with a new hip hop bop it.
Mhm.
Um, so like, yeah, if you think of any creative form as like Play-Doh, it's like, what are all the different things you could do to that
Right.
Play-Doh?
What are
And I
the
think that's where people
malleability factors?
that's where people get stuck because they're just like, I don't know what to do next. And I'm like, well, there's like literally an array
Yeah.
of ways to engage this thing. So
Mhm.
what you were saying with the words, I'm like, oh yeah, I could rhyme that, or I could word play that, or I could dissect that into two words, or
Mhm.
I could connect that to a movie that I saw,
Mhm.
Or like you're saying, oh, I could talk about sea foam and then I could start going into ocean
Yep.
imagery because I'll know something. Or foam makes me think about foaming at the mouth. So then I'll
Right.
go into like a mad dog or a shape. So my mind is like you're saying, like every time I come back around to the same idea, I was like, well, I can't come back with a rhyme. Like I've already rhymed. So it's really like you have all these tools.
A
That's
lot of
I guess
tools. Yep.
that's the thing. Like the introvert in us, the introvert part of us stores up tools, on a tool belt and techniques and methods. And then the creative extrovert of us is the spontaneity part. So it's like now when I'm on stage and someone says, Bernard, go with styrofoam, I'm not afraid because I trust my preparation. I've worked with the tools. I've written enough rhymes to know, double syllable rhymes, triple syllable rhymes. Okay. Or double entendre. Oh, okay. Now wordplay. Okay. Now free association wordplay. Oh, okay. Now go into your universe, bag. Okay. Now go into your documentary bag. Like there's
Mhm.
always a different tool or approach that I can use to get into the same thing. So when you're on stage, that extrovert, like you said, that extrovert part is not afraid because it's not purely extroverted. Right? That's the thing. It's not. That's the illusion. It's like it's the illusion
Right.
that you're just coming up with
That's
this
it.
stuff and you're, oh
That's
man,
it.
this dude's so incredible. And there is some truth to that because you're working in the moment with what's
That's
now.
right.
Because like, yeah, if I start freestyling, I like to take what's in the room. I like
Me
somebody,
too.
oh, give
Yeah.
me that. Or my favorite part of freestyle is when you reference something that happened like 2 minutes ago. Like
Mhm.
say some dude like tripped down the aisle, but yo, on
Yeah. Right.
freestyle,
Right. Right.
like
Right.
yo,
Right.
my bars, that dude just fell down the aisle. It was like
Yeah.
like yo, it's like I love referencing the present because there's so much presence of energy.
Right.
So that part makes you feel the most alive when you're freestyling. But yeah, to your point, I'm trying to think like, yeah, if I hadn't freestyled before or written before, would I be as confident?
Yeah, the answer is probably no. I yeah, like while you were talking about that, I remember the first time that I freestyled in public, but it was only a couple lines, and it was a battle. I was in a rap battle. I ended up winning, but it was one of those kind of freestyles where I was thinking it right before it was about to happen, and that's what classically happens in freestyle rap battles, right? When freestyle rap battles, you're trying to do what you're talking about. Somebody just fell. You're talking about someone's wearing all that kind of stuff and just like you, I don't even think I knew the term was freestyle then. And I did it. It was hilarious. The dude's name was MC Granville. It was at Martha's Vineyard. I was 16. And at that time, I didn't know, like you said, that freestyle necessarily was a thing. I knew I had friends who were like, yo, I freestyle. And I was always a little skeptical of like, are they meaning they really invent this whole thing right off the top? What it really meant, and I came to learn later, is they were lazy. they were they were people who write a couple bars and they'd that's about it, and they'd make up the rest. And they wouldn't really rap that long, and they would do common refrains like "throw your hands in the air, wave them like you
Right,
just don't care," and if your name's Cash Money and you're really not funny, then whatever that kind of stuff.
right,
And then they throw in a couple bars, and then whatever would they would see, they'd think before they go up and they'd rap. And so I kind of did the same thing to this kid. I had all my I was a written rhymer first, had this written rhyme. And I was like, what am I going to say about this dude? I'm just going to open with it. And, I hadn't really seen anyone open with a freestyle like that about someone before. And then the whole beach was like, yo, it's going to be a battle. Yo, it's going to be a battle. Because I was talking how nice I was, at that time. Yeah, my friends were talking about how nice I was, kind of thing. And yeah, I'd tell you a funny story. My other friends, I mean, this is way back in the day when I was 16. That's way back in the day. You know what I'm saying? We're talking, Public Enemy's first album kind of stuff, right? And the maybe second album. And we are imagining that there's going to be a spot on the beach where a bunch of rappers hang out. I remember me and my friends, and my friend was old enough to drive. I wasn't old enough to drive, and he had his car down there. And my friend was staying at his parents' summer beach house, right? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to Martha's. I didn't even know what Martha's Vineyard was, right? So I go to Martha's Vineyard, and I was like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing in the world. Like, this is like a beach filled with teenagers like us, a little bit younger, a little bit older. And we were just trying to find where all the rap parties were. And my friend,
right.
shout out to George Alley, he didn't believe they existed. And I was like, can't you feel that there's rap parties here going on the beach right now?
Can't
And
you
and
feel?
Fee and I talk about it to this day. He would say it to us, and he's go right. At the time, I would go by Lord Plord. He was like, right, Lord, there's gonna be a bunch of kids just hanging out on the beach, blasting their boombox, listening to Public Enemy. Like at that point in time, we thought like we were the only ones, kind of thing, you know.
Right.
And Fee and I we had enough, experience with shows and stuff. He was our DJ, but he didn't really come to any shows. And we were like, we're telling you, bro, there's gonna be mad people that are at hip hop parties. This was before hip hop parties at the beach were a thing. And Martha's Vineyard at the time, you didn't really have a reputation for having. It later became a well-known spot of this where everyone would go, and it was very hip hop later on. And we felt like we ushered that in, because we were like the very first beach party. The kid had a boombox, and he was a rapper, and I was a rapper, and a few of my friends, and we were like, yo, you got to hear these. Yo, you guys should rhyme together. And they were setting it up as a battle kind of thing. And all my rhymes were battle rhymes, but they were hypothetical battle rhymes because there was only two
Right.
other people I knew who rapped, So it was like hypothetical. So I had all these hypothetical battle rhymes. I did what you did. I used the moment and put the intro rhyme in there, and the place went nuts. I mean, they like fell over. And that was one of the big moments for me that said, okay, I really want to do this more. And then I started practicing freestyle. I started to incorporate more and more of that element into my rhymes until I don't remember exactly. I'd have to think about it. What the first time I just went all off the head, but I'm sure it was a cipher. I'm sure it was a cipher where someone was being like, yo, freestyle, yo, off the
Right.
top. Because I mean, I can name a million ciphers I was in, people going off the top only, off the top. And every once in a while, I'll come in a cipher. I'll do like 5 freestyles, and then I'll just change rules. I'll be like, all right, I'm going to do a written. All right, here we go. I'm going to do a written, and just change the vibe. After you've established that you're nice with it or whatever, then no one
Right.
cares. Then everyone's like, yo, do a written. That's cool. And then everyone starts going around with their writtens. But that was probably it. I remember some of the early ciphers I'd be in where people would they wouldn't let you in unless you freestyled, and it's low pressure, and it's very, very support group when you're in a cipher. People who've never been in a cipher don't necessarily know that. It's like a support group when you're in a cipher. It's like an AAA meeting. You're all in the circle. Hey, come share. It's the same idea.
Come share.
I think AA stole from the hip hop cipher. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're all sitting around
12
Yeah.
steps and 16 bars.
That's it. They're just not sharing bars. They're sharing chips and steps. So they did bite that, but it couldn't be more supportive for the people who don't know. You know what I mean? And if you've never been in a cipher, I encourage you to. Even if you're a little old lady somewhere in some county or whatever, you're watching us or listening, you're like, yeah, I want to get in a cipher. You're never too old. It could have been man, equal opportunity. It could have been, a little old man somewhere sitting somewhere. Whoever's the most likely candidate. If you've never been in a cipher, it's a very welcoming group, and they would be very entertained if you were to jump into that cipher, no matter what you look or sound like. If you try to come with the realness, people are appreciative. So it can be a spurring opportunity for many people. A lot more so than going to a crowd. We were talking about this the other night in the Pro Quo show. A lot more so than a bunch of rappers paying to be in their local rap show with a bunch of other local rappers who are paying to be in the local rap show. It's doesn't really make a whole lot of sense if you're trying to expand your market and you're going to a place where everyone's paying to be there in the silly model of where artists pay to be on the same stage with a bunch of other artists who are willing to pay for one headliner who hopefully brings in a few stray ducks into the crowd that you might be able to woo and entertain too. And it's just ridiculous. And it's like, if you want a far more supportive environment than your local rap show with a bunch of rappers who already rap and are only waiting to, get validation from the few people in there that might be open to see them, go in a cipher, find a cipher, start a cipher, actually. And you'll find a lot more reward.
Start a cipher AA group.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as you're talking, something just came to my mind. I was like, man, I may be more extroverted than I ever realized in terms
Oh,
of this creative extrovert. Because, okay, I mean, part of it is, I guess you
let
could
me
say,
be the judge of that, Bernard.
I guess you could say it's sort of a different laziness. It's not really laziness. Okay, it's like it can appear as laziness. Like I do so much writing and so many other things that, well, I haven't. It's been a while since I memorized anything I've written because I just write
Yeah,
it. I'm like, this, I
right.
got to get this out, and it's there.
Exactly.
So, and
I'm in
even
that
some
same
of the
boat.
stuff I used to have memorized, I'm like, oh, I'd have to go over that stuff because
Right.
I haven't performed in a while.
Right.
So I love the freestyle because, like, great, I don't have to write anything.
Yeah, right.
Or like hey, get up with art and talk about creativity. Great, I already know how to do that because I practice I practice talking, like, the clubhouse walking talks I do.
Yep.
That's my TEDx talk. I got like a year's worth of practice because this microphone you see right now on the bed that I'm on, I would literally wake up and be like, I want to talk about creativity today, record. So today
Yep.
I was thinking about creativity. So I would sit there and practice for hours and hours of talking, not trying to practice. I just wanted to talk. So then when it came to get on stage, and not like I had never been on stage before that, but it was just like, oh, I've synthesized these ideas enough that even if I forgot where I was, I could just flow into something else. So I think I like flow because
Mhm.
it's free and it's like I'm always it's funny like you say, it's like I'm always prepared.
Yeah.
It's a strange thing. It's like it's funny. Freestyle in a way makes you always prepared. My mom
Yes.
always likes to talk about, she's like, yeah. I mean, I think you could connect this to like hip hop culture, like black church culture. Cause my
Yep.
mom would always talk about, she's like, when we was in Sunday school, she's like, you were told, be ye ready. Like if you get called upon in church to preach or do a sermon, you better be, even as a young kid, you got to be ready to go up to the front of that church and deliver a lesson.
Right.
And I like that because it makes me think of the Freestyle, the Art of Rhyme documentary where the guy's like, yo, he's like, we so spiritual, we don't need a book.
Mhm. Mhm.
He's like, yo, we just off the dome. So there is something about that, African black church hip hop culture that is present, and is also, I think, what people have been denied and what they're looking for, because you can see anybody when you see people freestyle, their eyes just get so like, wow, like you look so free. I want to do that. I did some I did a me and a friend, we did this thing called free verse. So it was like, man, I got the graphic. I should try to pull up the graphic if I have it. It was like one part like traditional poetry, one part hip hop. So we met like 10 weeks and we were trying to get people to come in and just do different exercises and write poetry,
Yep.
everything from traditional. So we had one time I was like, all right, y'all, we're going to, like you say, do a cipher. And I knew everybody was going to be like, oh no, I don't know how to do this. I said, here we go. Everybody sit down. Like I sat around in a circle and I put blindfolds on everybody. And I was like,
Mm.
all right, you can't see anyone else. No one else can see you. Let's go. And
Wow.
people actually engaged because once they got over that fear of being seen, I think they
Yep.
were like, okay, I can let myself free. So there's and I told someone else about freestyle and they were like, I think you should incorporate freestyle into like your identity idea, like helping people be free through freestyles. Oh, that's interesting because
Mm.
there is something about free, like being free,
Yep.
freestyle. And I always tell all my students, like, yo, the number one thing you got to know about freestyle is about not being afraid. It's not about, I mean, yeah, I tell you, learn your vocabulary, practice, like do it. But the number one thing is being fearless. Just like anything
Right.
in life, any craft, but really anything in life. If you want to do something, you have to overcome the fear. And I use it, like I said, I use it a lot as not, like I said, I've done so many whack freestyles, but when I do them, it's like I'm proud of myself because when I get up there, I was like, hey, I didn't like lean on some written thing that I did, or I didn't say,
Yeah.
oh, I can't do this. I'm like, yeah, it was the most garbage thing. But I put myself on stage and allow myself to be on that tightrope and
Yeah.
feel the fear of it.
Yeah. I have a lot of friends who are purists, MCs, who, when someone says freestyle, we get into this debate all the time, right? Does a freestyle mean freestyle? The modern take. When I
Yeah.
say modern, the last 10 years, freestyle just means any prepared rhyme that you have, which is the antithesis of freestyle, right? It
Right.
just means it wasn't a song. It was someone just performing the verse of their choice, right? Like a freestyle swimmer might choose to do any premeditated style that they have. It's not like they're going to bust into some new form that no one's ever seen before. So they use it like freestyle swimming, right? It's funny. There's a video I'm going to share with you in a second. I think you'll like it too. I think you'll like the content. This was in Brooklyn at some small club that I was doing, and my man Dale Chase, producer named Syntax, who produced a lot of our old stuff. He was there, and it was his show that I was like featuring in, kind of thing. And on the video, they say Professor Lyrical Freestyle or something. I mean, I probably uploaded it, but that's what people were calling it, and I just uploaded it that way. And I'm such a stickler too that I'm like, oh man, I'm not really freestyling that. But the start of it was like what I was talking about earlier. I was freestyling to start, and then I just go into a rehearsed rhyme because I heard a
Right.
beat that made me say, oh, I got to rhyme to that. And that happens a lot, right? So I'll
Right.
stop a cipher a lot of times and I'll say, and this is to your point of the preparedness. It's like, if there's a classic hip hop beat and you haven't rapped to it before, I'm kind of questioning your preparedness, right? If it's like a true classic beat,
Right.
it's like, I've either freestyled to it 100 times, I wrote rhymes to it. So it's hard for me to hear a classic beat and not kick something that's prepared. Let me
Right.
give you this. This is at a place called Puppets. And shout out to my man Dale Chase. Let's see if we can share this. And I think you'll like the content. Let's see.
What do you think?
Look, he's playing the beat.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
And it reminded me of a Mobb Deep beat.
You pass me the mic, I'm rapping with the passion of Christ. Something like that. Something like real biblical.
I kind of like that, yeah.
Alright, check it out.
There you go.
Yeah. The flow's permanent, pressing the pen pages, the journaling, biblical, the book of Enoch, describe the firmament, cyclical, stars in the sky, describe mythical, learning it, the lyrics I leave turn material, lyrical, emerging a verse that's so spiritual, the sacraments bestowed upon me, is shown visual, it's futuristic, I'm using music like a mystic, when I visit with the sick, my healing touches eucalyptus, futuristic, flowing the track so classically, Shakespearean students wanna just view a class with me, teach them tragedy, naturally comedy, and rap with me, and after have my album Infinity, the Rhapsody, naturally the words that I choose improve gradually. After half the students I tutoring after me, a music factory, so who would ever have audacity to press the whack tracks in the wax? Truly it baffles me. Okay.
This was the end of the night, almost when everybody had left and we were just playing around.
The most incredible flow, so poetical. Behind the 16s on tape than R. Kelly do. Dog, I'm telling you, my 32s are nasty. Got hotter twin 16s and Mary Kate and Ashley. Hate me or gas me, I'm smart and I'm built. And got the hood in my hand like a carton of milk. So pardon the guilt. I'm sorry, but not stopping until I'm head and shoulders above the rest, like I'm walking on stilts. Boston is ill, that's why I had to start up a guild through every ghetto. So our soldiers won't get lost in the fail, cause lots of us fail. We about to start locking them nails. Flip these keys in reverse like I'm locking the jails. The market appeal, I'm corporate doing real big things. Still you find me in the bricks like the 3 little pigs with real big things and scream like an M16. Spit my verse, girls scream like M16. M16, like Eminem 16. I'll do a little more verse here. I love this beat, it's kind of cool. Let me think of a verse, it's unrehearsed. Trying to put it on pause like I just drove up in a hearse that's permanent. I'm trying to just learn with it, trying to come back like the Nazis did in Germany. But they didn't come back, in fact, that's slack, that's whack. I was off at the top, that's some knack. But I be just trying to think of my next word. Oh yeah, I think I have it, check it out, Bird. I'm vegetarian, I never have meat on a stick.
That was classic going to
never
original,
lose,
right?
never beef over chicks. Keeping biz, never personal, endorsing in commercial to sell more of my own in return of role reversal. Fortune on the cover of Forbes before I'm 44. I've been at the source before it opened up doors. I want more than just material music up on your stereo, lyrical cereal, replacing Wheaties in your Cheerios. Heroes to me, people like Ida Wells and Nelson Mandela, 40 years in a cell. Learn to rhyme well, listening to Keenan Kemp, the training begin. I started lifting weights in the gym. A brain of a kid running wild like a slave in a run. Illusions of my own freedom got me speaking in tongues. Like teachers and nuns or preachers of guns beat us religiously till your concept of individual identity blend into the melting pot. I felt not a thing. 14 years later, all I see is the bling. The poetry's gone. Listen, I wrote so many songs with so many bars. It's hard for me to know I'm apart. So where do I start? I found my class and type. You memorize them in my head. In my class at night, the classic type of rapper who be glad to fight. I'll battle anyone to teach them how to rap more tight. A cipher saw. I fight for the poor with eyes on the prize. I'm sure of what we doing it for. Humans are more than we thinking we are. Twinkling stars, metaphorically the truth lurks in knowing your star, knowing your art. Noah's Ark alone in oceans of dark, closer to quarks in the heaven than a boat in the dark. Hoping to start mad discussions on the start of it all. 9 dimensions of the world holding time in the ball. I'm flying the ball. I'm listening to all of y'all squawk like a bunch of whining kids who lost their ball in the park. Spark the cipher still writer who's ill merges in business sales. Fucking landfill on 40 acres up on Sugar Hill. Walk into an office of a corporate exec with force of attack. Blast him in his forehead and step with knowledge. Weapons kept like magic and bird. Below the jersey extra heavy like Larry Lurgy like... Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah, you should pin the link in the clubhouse. I tried to put it up to the headphones so all our millions of adoring fans on replays could hear it.
Yes, Absolutely. It's funny is even watching that clip is like when you weave in and out of prepared stuff and you can just like, oh, let me grab a verse that I have here. It's to your point, you were talking about like going to the black church and being prepared and like there's an element of wanting to be excellent. You can
Right.
whether you call it black excellence, whatever you want to deem it, but the idea is very real. It's that like, having to be better than, right? And having to be more proficient, more prepared, more so that when your time comes, you don't
Right.
screw it up. And I think this is very true in MC culture and the creative culture in general. Is that like, when you get up there on a stage, no matter how many people there are watching, how many people listening, I know that when I step in the building, that I have probably rehearsed the first word to about the top 10 rhymes that I'd want to say from a catalog of literally thousands. And what happens, I very much relate to what you were saying earlier, where these days I tend to write my stuff on a computer, which is harder to remember, and I'm writing it in real time while I'm listening to the beat. I don't have those rhymes remembered. The ones that I wrote that are in my Lyrical Burgundy Bible over here, or whatever, when I was writing them back in the day, they're all cemented into my brain. Like I can't forget them. It's just a matter of forgetting that they exist. So
Right.
like you heard me with the word permanent. The flow is permanent, pressing the pen, pages the journal, it biblical. The book of Enoch describes the firmament, cyclical, stars in the sky describe mythical. Learning that the lyrics I leave turn material, lyrical. The merge of the verse is so spiritual. The sacraments bestowed upon me be shown visual. Like that's there. It's not going away. That's my process when I write, and I know. So for me, it's just having to remember that I have that rap. And then I think the crowd likes that as much as they like a freestyle. When you're, what'll go good with this? Like there's something about that too that's dope when they know that's authentic. Well, you don't always have to freestyle spur of the moment to prove your authenticity, because preparedness is authenticity as well. Like you telling me this dude sat at home and wrote like these 16 verses to this beat, or he has this many things in this spirit over here that can work. I appreciate that. I would love an MC to be talking and narrating for me what they're doing or what their thought process is. You know what I got that goes to this? Yo, when I was 17, I wrote this. Or when I was 50, I wrote this. When I was 40, I did this. When I was 22, sitting in math class, yo, the first time I freestyled, I like
Right.
that. I want to learn about the MC, what made them think what they're thinking, talk about it. That process is preparedness too. And it also gives you a confidence to know that you can have a conversation with a crowd too. And that's that public speaking piece of it. Like I'm not afraid to stop the whole show. And, we did this with my man Fly the other day when we were a couple of weeks ago, we were in, New Orleans. It's conversation. We're having a whole conversation with the crowd. And I was telling him before we get out there, I was like, oh, I perform a little different. Like I'm going to speak with the crowd, like I'm going to be like, hey, what's going on? What are y'all thinking about? Because it's that improv, that give and take, that allows that even performance to be, I think, even more personal and better. So,
Yeah, I'm thinking about to connect this all back to the creative extrovert. I guess I want to take all the stuff we're saying, and as I always do, like direct it towards the introverts who are like, oh, I could. Okay, because we always talk about, look at us, we're the lions on the stage, and you can do that too. I think there's a lot of people who are like, no, like I could never do that. Like some people are
right.
like, yo, I couldn't even do public speaking.
Yeah.
So I think, I guess I'd be curious to first hear the inverse. Like, do some people who consider themselves social extroverts, would they say they're creative introverts? Like,
Mm,
would they be like, oh, like, no, I don't like to work with
that's a
people.
great point.
I like to be at home by myself. Or maybe it's not like, or maybe it's not so much they are like, but they kind of become one. They're like, oh, no, thank you. I just rather do this by myself. No, I don't want to
Well,
be with you all.
what about this though? I mean, for me, this is a no, and this is a very creative extrovert thing. I'm not doing karaoke. Like as a
Right,
general rule of thumb, I'm not doing karaoke unless you let me rap over somebody's beat. Like
right,
I've done that before, and people have gotten mad. No, those aren't the words. And it's like, no, I'm a rapper. Like you play that beat, I'm just looking for a dope beat, and I'll rap over it. But I am not doing karaoke unless there's a certain song that I just like to practice singing, and like maybe
right,
I'd want to do that. But in general, I'm not doing karaoke. I don't think that's true for extroverts. I think extroverts are dying to do karaoke. Like I want nothing to do with karaoke. There's nothing about
right.
karaoke I want to do in public. I don't know. I'm assuming that's true for you. I don't know. I'm only assuming it because it's what I do on the same thing. Like I'd have to be with a group of people I really know well and nobody else around for me to get up and want to do karaoke. I don't want
I
that video
mean,
emerging, I guess, is
I don't want to just do random songs. Like it had to be a song
yes.
like 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 Vanessa Carlton, 1,000 Miles. Like I probably do karaoke to that just because like yo, this I love the piano in that
Right.
song, and I
Right.
karaoke
Something
in my car
personal
with
to you,
that.
right? Yeah, right.
Um,
But I'm not
but
throwing on some Barry Manilow song and getting up there and oh yeah, I can't
right.
smile without you.
Well,
I'm
I'll
using him,
connect.
by the way, because of this game show we were watching the other day with my wife, and Barry Manilow Trip was what this lady won, and all the prizes are customized to you. I think it's the whammy one that comes up. This lady won
Yeah.
$300,000, and her dream show was to go see freaking Barry Manilow. And I started singing it. My wife was like, "Please don't." Please stop. And she's like an amazing singer. She's like, no, stop. No, don't even go in that realm. So I'm
Well,
taking advantage that you're here.
I'll connect to what you were saying in a second, but to go back to what I was saying about
Oh,
the
Mandy
introvert, extrovert, uh,
at the Copa.
I think okay, so for me, because okay, there's so many connections to make our creativity. For us, we found a craft, we know our talent, so it's easy for us to say, though I don't feel as outspoken in this social context, when it comes to the creative context, I'm like the extrovert. So I guess one, I would say discover your talent, right? Whatever that is for you, whatever talent you discover and craft you hone, that will help build your confidence
Mm-hmm.
to make you in certain contexts feel
Extrovert.
extroverted.
Yep.
And extroverted doesn't necessarily mean verbal. And I think that's another thing. I think see that's why I'm always telling people I'm always pushing ideas. Like when people hear introvert, extrovert, they're so like, oh, Myers-Briggs. I'm like, no, to me, introvert, extrovert are universal concepts. Like you can find introvertedness and extrovertedness in the universe,
Right.
plants, animals.
Crabs. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like shell, turtle, go in your
Yeah.
shell.
Yeah. Crab. I was thinking a crab is pretty introverted, but I was like,
But not even just like you're in your shell,
you
but
walk
like
sideways, bro. Like,
in internal versus external, or like kind of like living outside of your body versus like living inside of your body. Like there's just things that people do. So um I think sometimes using your body is quote unquote extroverted. Like you may go into a room and be very like physically active.
yeah.
Like I would say like a dancer is extroverted
Right.
without speaking a word. Like we even call that what body language.
Right.
So one, I think you don't have to get on stage and be a rapper or a public speaker to be considered a creative extrovert because I don't
Right.
think extrovertedness is exclusive to verbalizing. It just happens that the thing that you and I do is verbal. It
Right.
just happens that we are one rappers. Number two, we literally love word play. So it's like double, like, hey, we love rapping, but also we literally love verbs.
Yeah.
We like playing with verbs. So it just
Right.
seems like, oh, you guys are so verbose. It's like, yeah, we love verbs. So I guess that would be the first thing I say is you can't self disqualify yourself from being a creative extrovert because you don't do rap or do poetry or do singing. It's more about what is the thing that you like we said, internally connect with that when you have to externally do it, you're like, oh, this is a breeze. And other people couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Like I think I think that's the way I put it. What is the thing that for you that you have internalized that you could externalize and other people be like, how did you do that? Like I would never do that. I could never move like that. I mean, I think
Yeah.
like painting you consider sort of extroversion. I mean, you take in an image in your mind
Right.
and then you make it external, right? Like
It's hilarious because I'm thinking some of like obviously I love going to the gym and shooting free throws, which is a very introverted thing, right? Like in fact, there'll be a whole game going on and I'm at the back gym part where there's nobody playing. People are like, oh, you want to play? No, I don't want to play. I just want to go shoot my free throws. Now, when I'm done shooting free throws, I want to play. That's the funny part. So I want nothing to do with the group game. I just want to go get my shots up, right? But it's funny because I post the videos.
right.
which is the extroverted part of that, right? And it never occurred to me to post the videos until I saw someone post a shooting video, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess I could do that. And then I was thinking about what's the benefit, like what's the benefit, and it really resonated with me about sort of a bigger mission for me. I love demonstrating that anything is achievable through consistency, repetition, and hard work, right? I love that. I love dispelling the myth that I'm born with this supernatural ability to freestyle or rap or whatever. It's like, come on, bro. Like, the gift is being here. The rest is nurtured. I have no shooting ability outside of what I go practice, right? I guess I'm lucky to be tall. That helps me maybe get it in a little easier than people who aren't. But it's like outside of that, and all my limbs are functioning and everything, blah blah blah. And I'm fortunate I can afford to go to the gym, kind of stuff. But I could go find any basket down the street. So why am I sharing it? Well, I'm good at it. So there's the whole thing.
Right.
Like, I'm not showing you a video of me missing 10 in a row. Right.
Right.
Like, but I have no problem doing that as long as it's going to show you improvement. Like, there's been a few times I've posted videos where I miss a bunch of shots and where I was working. Like, I almost did one the other day, but I thought it was too boring. It was me in the gym after I'd been out my hand has been my fingers jammed. And so I missed like 3 or 4 days, and I turned the camera on and I go, okay, here I go. This is going to be pretty bad. I've missed like 3 or 4 days. I turned the camera on. I did record it, and I hit the first shot. I did hit the next one. I missed the next 3 straight. And if you've watched me shoot free, I never miss 3 straight free throws, right? But I also never take 3 days off from shooting free throws. But then again, I was also in my head because I'm like thinking about like how much is my holding hand? Should I shoot with one hand? I shoot pretty well one-handed. So I'm like, maybe I should shoot one-handed. And so then there's something about when you shoot after you've done a couple, like I miss my first free throw, like probably like 80% of the time. Like, I go in the gym and I shoot my first free throw. I feel like I'm in a different planet. And then I have to get it out. And then I kind of calibrate. And I'm like, oh man, that was awful. Like, I'm not going to miss the next one now. I like almost never miss the next one kind of thing. And so there's something about wanting to show somebody the grueling part of this, the get better, the process, that appeals to me because it appeals kind of to my sort of life view, right? Is that, hey, anything's possible if you just keep working at it. Where the karaoke thing is the antithesis of that. Here's me getting up, doing a song I don't know,
Right.
and I've never tried to do this song, and I'm not a good singer to begin with, at least not an adequately good singer. I don't expect this to be good for you or me. And it's not like you're going to let me do song 2 and song 3 and just say, hey, let me watch some improvement here. If that was the case, it'd be cool. I'd love to do a terrible one and then go, oh, can I do one to this rap beat over here? Watch what happens now. You know what I'm saying? That would appeal to me. And then I would have a conversation about it and be like, yo, I've practiced that like a whole bunch of times. And I know it looks like night and day. I love that. I just don't like the process of looking like an idiot on something that I'm not prepared on. And I don't
Right.
want to pay to watch you like that either. So I'll be an extrovert in something I know I'll succeed in, something I know I've practiced at. And part of the teacher in me, it's like I always want it to be that teachable moment that, hey, you too can get good at this. You too can
Right.
get that.
Let me share a screen. I was just throwing together this diagram
Uh-oh. Sounds mathy already.
since we were talking about
Looks like
the
can't
tree
really
and the
see.
roots.
Looks like I was gonna say it looks like a brain, but now I see it.
Well, yeah, it's coming out of the brain. It's the just the root.
that brain thing. It's a big part of the Introverse world.
The
All right.
brain stem. Get it? Stem,
I
not
see.
stem, steam. Your
Like a
brain
stem
stem
cell.
is the root.
There's a stem cell in the
Yeah.
stem of your brain that helps you do
Yes.
STEM.
Just
that
the we
stems
said
from
the prep. Yeah, stems from the prep, tools, the reserves that you build up, like you're saying, through hard work, through practice, allows for the free flow. The tree style
rap.
rap.
I see you.
So yeah, I think like we're always doing on this show, redefine. So I know for me, sometimes I hear the word extrovert and I'm like, but then I also have to be honest and be like, oh, there is some very attractive parts to extrovertism, right? Not because other people say so, but when I look at certain things, I'm like, man, I want to do that. Like I want to be in that way. But I think that's the cool thing that this whole creative extrovert me think about is like, oh, you're already that way. Like you don't have to like it's in you.
You don't have to change much, yeah.
Yeah, it's like that's why I say I feel like these extrovert archetypes or prototypes, they're in you, and then it's like, okay, how do I like mold that one in whatever context? So you have extrovertedness in you, It's probably just you probably got shut down in the social context. You're probably like, oh, I like to say something. Somebody was like, they changed the subject or whatever, and you're like, okay, I'm never talking again.
Yeah.
But then when you get into the creative context, you're like, I could talk about philosophy forever, or I could get on
Right.
stage forever. Because I always find that peculiar about myself. I was like, man, like I don't like to talk to people, but over in this realm, I like to talk a whole lot. Like
Yeah.
you can't stop me from talking. It's like, oh, I don't like being initiator in this realm, but over here, I'll get all like it's like I tell you, it's hilarious. I will get all in people's faces. Let's go, let's rap, let's go. And it's not just the rap. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it is
Well,
just the
even looking at the tree style rap drawing, the flow, the moment, the practice, the tools, the prep, the reserve. If the reserve, I mean, I see it's kind of like the brain's kind of like the ground there, right? Like swelling up from the brain. It's like if the reserve isn't big enough, I think most people would have a natural fear of doing it. Kind of like
right.
me with the lip sync, right? Or whatever it's called, the karaoke. Um, so is it a survival thing? Is it, we'll talk about these evolutionary traits that we have to endure, right? Is it, and I feel like already just asking the question, I can see both sides of that. I could see where being an introvert, we watch these movies and someone speaks up and they die, right? You see it all the time, right? Someone's like, did someone have a question? Boom, and they step up and they kill that person, right? It's a classic bank scene. Someone's going to say something, boom, and they kill him, right? And it's like, okay, you can see where just keeping your head low and shutting up is a survival tactic. But you can also see if you got something to add and lend, and in the right circumstance, being an expert can really propel you to. I mean, the court jester probably lived a pretty good life comparative to his counterparts. Maybe not compared to like the dukes and duchess and those kind of things and the other royals and so forth, but basically this is a commoner who could be scrubbing dishes, but he's like making the king laugh until he screws up and dies or whatever himself, or like the magicians or whatever, what have you. They're probably living a little life a little bit better than the commoner. So at some point they have to make a decision like, do I want to raise my head up and be that extrovert? And it's either going to work or not work. And you could almost see that playing out evolutionary, like, okay, this person made it through being the extrovert, where this person died from being the extrovert. And similarly with the introvert, like it's also the squeaky wheel kind of theory, right? Like, they don't get fed if they're not squeaking kind of deal. So
Right.
you can see that depending, then navigating situationally. Okay, what time is it? Like at this point, the more we do the show, the more ambi I feel about the whole thing, because it's like I feel, and I think that's natural for us because we have strategically placed ourselves into the places where we excel in that creative part. So our creative parts of our lives are more of a percentage of our lives than people who don't actually get to act that out in their day to day, right? So a lot of people, we talk about hidden talents. Oh, what's your hidden talent? My hidden
Right.
talent's not hidden.
Right.
It's very out there on Front Street. It might be hidden if you see me for a few days at a math conference or something and you don't know me or whatever, but it's not going to be hidden long. Same with you. I mean, it's freaking part of your job, or at least the most recent what you've been doing for a while, and all the other stuff that you do.
Well,
So that's a big question.
well,
Is it because we're doing it more?
I mean, okay. Well, I'll take you back to where my mind is though. Like I said, I remember being in like second grade and we had like a Christmas play and we had to get on stage. And I remember that young age being like, "This is it. Like,
Mm,
I'm not afraid at all. Like, I felt no fear. I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do. It's like I wanted the spotlight."
yep.
And so I think to me that is the creative extroverts equivalent of the like social extroverts equivalent in the party. Like I'm the center of attention. I'm
Yep.
the life of the party. Like they want to be like the host.
Yep.
Like, yeah, can I talk to hey everybody? John just walked in. Like they want people to pay attention to them. So it's like their life is a type of performance. Like
Yep.
knowing who's there, knowing where things are. Yeah, man, grab this. We're doing this. Drinks on the bar or whatever. Me, I don't want none of part of that in the social context.
Right.
I don't want you to talk to me. I don't want to talk to you. I will find the stuff. Thank you.
Yep.
But on stage or like in teaching, it's just like I like to be in the spotlight. I'm like, look
Right.
at me, look at this. This guy up here needs to be seen. This person is talking right now, and I have no problem being loud. I have no problem being in your face. I mean, I guess that's the thing that I think that part is the thing that's most intriguing to me. Like, I will literally like get in your face and be like, let's go, let's
Mhm.
do this. And that's what I said. I probably annoy people creatively, like extroverts annoy me socially. Hey
Yeah.
guys, everybody move up to the front. Let's all
Right.
I'm like, let's not.
Yeah,
So when I'm
let's
like, hey
not.
guys, do you want to rap? Do you want to learn how to draw? Come on, we can all do this. We can all make a song right now. And it's like, it's almost uncontrollable. And it's almost like, I don't really care if I'm annoying you right now. Like, you're going to be annoyed and you're going to like it because I'm about to do it anyway. So I guess that part intrigues me because you don't get to live that out in the social. So maybe
Yeah.
I'm just so aware of it as the introvert that, oh, I don't do that in the socials. When I do it
Yeah.
here, it's just so like loud to me.
I'm a little different on that. I am like, let's say I'm asked to do a presentation because, again, I know I'm tapping into some of those same skills. I know that I can do the presentation well. And
Right.
so I don't like if someone says, "Hey, Plord, we need you to do the presentation." Okay, cool. That's fine. I have no problem with that. No, but if someone says, "Who wants to do the presentation?" That's totally different. I'm not raising my hand. I
Right.
don't want to do the presentation. It's just when you say I'm going to do the presentation, I'm going to do it well. I'm not going to,
Right.
I'm going to prepare adequately or whatever. I might put it off a little bit if it's not one that I want to do as much. But when it comes down to it, I'm going to prepare and do my thing. And I have no fear of that. In the classroom, I'd rather not have to do all that. Like a good class for me, I usually judge by a certain threshold at which I feel I should need to talk. And then if I don't pass it, I feel like I did a good job. But there are many times where I fail at that. And then it just turns into, can you show us kind of mode? And I think that happens a lot in the math world where people are stuck. And it's like, I'm always trying to get faculty to say, well, once you have to submit to that, that's when the learning decreases. You know, if the student can figure it out on their own, they're probably better off. So I'm at this juxtaposition where, yeah, again, I'm cool with doing the presentation. I'm cool with explaining. I know what I'm talking about. I know I can explain well. You know, I have the ability
Right.
to explain stuff, big concepts easily, right? And that has value. Like, you know, if you're trying to take this is what I do on Clubhouse. You know, I go into these rooms and these people are talking and I'm just get to it. Even whether it's these, you know, I tell you all the time, I go into these theistic rooms, I go into these atheist rooms and I listen to the people argue and I'm like, will you just get to the point? Like all this tangential stuff. I go into the
Right.
math rooms, it's anything I'm interested in. I'll go in and I listen and I feel like I can cut to the root of it. Then I want to talk. But I don't want to talk until we're getting up to the point of where, like, if somebody's getting to the meat of it, it's kind of like a student. They're getting to the meat of it and they're hashing through it. I'm cool with watching people fumble around and get to it. But when they're miles around, then I want to come in. The teacher in me does want to bring it back and go, yo, can't you atheists over here understand what it is that these people are missing? You know, and likewise the same thing with people that are over the top, you know, in those rooms that are like screaming at the atheists like they're immoral and all this. I'm like, bro, like, okay, here's the situation, right? And then just to use this example, this would be what I do. The crux of it all comes down to we aren't 100% sure of how we got here, right? So we can philosophize on it. We can we can turn to theology. We can turn to science and reason. And we're all trying to do the same thing. We're all trying to say, what makes the most sense? Or what do I believe? And we have a different value system about what those things are that we believe, right? But when you're name calling and you're doing all this kind of stuff and it's getting convoluted and then you get into the minutia and you're like, well,
Right.
you know, in Revelations it says, or someone's like, yo, in, you know, reading over here in Plato's, you know, whatever. It's like, bro, you're 10 miles away from where we need to be. Get to the answer to the question. What do you think? Like, this is what it comes down to. You can ask this to either side of the pendulum, right? You can say, what do you think caused the first thing to pop into existence? Whether you think it's God or whether you just think it's an element, how do you think that happened? That's an interesting discussion point, right?
Right.
And it can take you different ways. And I'm willing to go down those bunny trails with that. And I'm willing to speak to clarify, to get to that point so that we can have something meaningful. In the classroom, I just don't want to see people doing meaningless stuff that's taking them away. Then I
Right.
interject myself. But I don't have any desire in either scenario to talk and to be front and center until I feel things have gone awry. then I want to come in and I'm
Right.
like, let me be the prevailing head here to, try to get you back.
Right. This is why I would say that's the mediator in you from the
Yeah.
Myers-Briggs, because I'm similar. I also have same way. Like if somebody calls me, is like, "Bernard, you doing a presentation?" I'm like, "Let's go." But if they say, "Who wants to do it?" Part of me wants to be like, "Yeah, I need to volunteer for this because it's gonna go
Because
horrible."
y'all gonna mess it up if I don't.
But but there's something about being called on. It's the
Yep.
expert. It's
Yep.
like the creative extrovert expert. It's like you want to be acknowledged as the expert, not just like, okay, I'll come to the rescue. It's like you want the
I've
bat
never
signal
thought
to
of it
go
that
out.
way. That might be true. I've honestly never thought about it that way. I've never. I mean, that's the way you're positioning that, and it may be true. I don't think I've had time to think about if that's the thing that does it for me.
I think for
It
me,
makes some sense, but
I think it is for me because it's like the introvert is an individual and wants to be like singled out in a way, not in a social way. Hey, where are you from? Let's all go. You're like, I don't know. I don't want to be singled out telling where I'm from. But if somebody said, tell me your theories on math, you'd be like, oh, what? Okay, here we go. Here we go. Yeah, hold on. Hold on. How much time y'all got? Like if somebody
yeah,
said, Bernard, talking about philosophy, I'm like, you would like to do what now? Thank you.
yeah.
And continue on from my lecture. Like I'm ready to go. I would just get up. I would like morph into the front of the classroom, like continue on from the series that we began last week on Introverse. People are like, oh, you're prepared? Like, yeah. So I think it's that, but also the thing that's coming to my mind. Okay, to your point about like the classroom, since we're both in education, I think about that too. Because again, if you're working in something specifically like podcasting, music, these are very audible sensory
Yep.
things too. So I'm trying to think, what would I be like in a history class?
Ooh.
Or a math class? Like, how would I be? And I still think I would be a creative extrovert because in my mind, growing up, I was like, man, if I taught history class, I'd like dress up as the people, or I have actors come in because I wanted to come alive. So I think it's a performance. I think the introvert, in some ways, is a natural creative performer. Like you think, oh, the introvert, they're quiet and they're solitude. It's like, yeah, but there's a performer in them on some level, even if they don't think there is. Because yeah, if I got up in front of math, I'd be like, yo, this cannot be boring. Or if I got up in front of history, like even if they said, Mr. Hankins, you have to teach us by the book. Like I'm putting jokes in there. I'm gonna be making connections. I'm gonna let the students know, like, yo, I understand this could be boring, but I'm about to make it come alive for you. Like I refuse to let you be bored. I just can't do it to you. So I think there's something there because with the mode. So I was like, yeah, because to your point too, like some days in my music class, it's like, yeah, I just want to sit here and work on my beat, and I want y'all just get to work on your beat. I don't have to like, come on guys, let's go, let's make a beat. Like no, yeah, just focus.
Mm-hmm.
But then I guess maybe more collaborative things that require actual physical action. Like, oh, I'm shooting a music video. I'm like, come on, guys, let's go. Let's get up. We need to shoot this. Let's go. It's like when I get in director mode. So it's not just it's not just your like personality mode. It's like there's also the other mode, like the particular craft. Like, okay, are you teacher craft? Are you musician craft? Are you mathematician craft? Are you director craft? Here, I'll show you this other diagram. I started to work on. Everybody should do one of these at some point. I want to. This is gonna be my thing.
It's a great lead in, by the way. Everyone should do one of these. And then I was waiting, go, what? What is it we should all do?
Hold up, I
I
just
love
had
that.
it.
I'm going to do that. Everyone needs to do one of these, and it'd be like some boring math homework problem. Like, everyone needs to do one of these. This would be great for you.
Here we go.
Bro, by the way, I had a dream last night, and you may not be in this realm. I had a dream last night that it was the first day of school, and I was not prepared. And they were like, dude, they were like, your syllabus. And you know why? It's because my syllabus isn't ready for my class that I have to teach on the 22nd. And so in my head, it's coming up on August, right? So of course, my brain is internalizing the 22nd is right around the corner, right? Which of course it's not really right around the corner, but in my dream, it might as well have been tomorrow. And I was like, I can't believe it. This has never happened before. So just I wanted to throw that out there.
Well, I did not have a dream. I read an article that says schools still need substitutes and teachers, and I was like, Good luck to thee, because I'm out of that. It was funny though. I did think about being a sub. I was like, man, what if I was like, wouldn't it be hilarious if I just came back to my schools? Hey, you guys need subs? And I just went and subbed for the whole year.
I
That
got,
would be hilarious.
if you want to come to DC, I got some work for you. But you know,
They were saying these people getting 140 a day, I think.
I
I
know.
was like,
It's not
I
bad.
guess I could go in there and just make some beats.
Yeah,
You
140 a
know?
day. You can make some beats for $700 a week. Yeah.
So this diagram is this is a diagram that I created for myself in my life.
What in the world is going on here?
Yeah, it's
Can you blow it up a little bit more?
let's see. If I zoom in?
I'm blowing up my screen now. So, but it's pretty good. Okay.
So I always talk about identity. So I'm like, okay, what are the things that are just purely Bernard, like the God-given Bernard, like this is just who you are.
Oh,
apart
this is
from
for you. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
I
this
see.
is for me.
I see.
But other people, they could do their own. So purely Bernard, and then I have your masculine, your feminine.
Actually, in this case, can you unblow it out a little bit because I can't see what the top of the circles are called. There we go.
Right,
okay, that's good.
So you got your masculine, your feminine, your introvert, your extrovert. So then I was getting into your childlikeness, your adults, all these, spectrum. But okay, so the interesting thing I started doing was I started laying out, say for instance, in the social introvert, like why is it that I am? What did I put here? I dismiss social rules. That's okay. So that's one of the like dichotomies I found about myself. I was like,
where are you now? Where is that?
Okay,
I see you. Your cursor's moving.
Yeah, dismisses social rules.
Okay.
And then somewhere I probably put on a diagonal or something. I don't remember. I probably put like rule oriented because that's one of the things about myself. I was like, yo, when it comes to like customs and you need to say hello and greet, I'm like, I nobody care about all that. I don't have to do any of this stuff.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like the law and rules and parking, I'm like, hey, that thing said parking from 4 to 6. It is now 5:59, time to leave.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I get it. It's the social introvert, creative extrovert kind of thing. It's like I don't care about the social rules, but I care about the philosophical, theological rules. So the main reason for this diagram is for people to get internal clarity on themselves, right? Like a organization of your person.
Okay.
Like
so my math person can only look at this as a Venn diagram. So, but I realize this is not an actual Venn diagram. So it has Venn diagram properties.
It could,
but so the outside, what's going on with the blue and the red for social introvert? Are those polar opposites that we're looking at, or are those just different categories entirely? Oh, okay. You have feminine under the bottom. I couldn't see it there. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So feminine, masculine. I see. Okay.
And then I got child adult as well. Because there's parts that obviously that stay with you from your childhood that are still very much in you, especially if you're creative.
Yeah.
But then there's the adult part of you. Like as a creative person, I like things to be interesting and mysterious and whimsical, but I also want them to be high caliber craft. Like I don't want, I'm not trying to watch like Barney or the Wiggles. You know what I'm saying? Like there's an adult part of me that's like, ooh, put some rigor into that. Like, oh, pro lyrical with those bars. Like, yes.
Yeah.
And I don't want to hear a cat in a hat. So this diagram is mainly just fun for me to do, to be like, oh, what are all the parts of me that I know are in me and I always know are operating and they clash at times or overlap. And probably after I discovered the social introvert, creative extrovert, I was like, oh yeah, that's a huge component.
Now let me ask you this. When you're placing the individual things into these circles, you're starting with, let's say, like social introvert. You're thinking of all the things that classically remind you of social introvert and then just throwing them in there. Like, is that what you're answering? What about me is social introvert? Is that how you fill them in? Or is it from a list of things that already exist?
No, this is literally something I've designed. Like this whole diagram is a thing that I've created.
If we were, and you see where I'm going with this, if we were asking an audience to do this, we would be saying, think of all the things about yourself that you feel are socially introverted and write them over here. And all the things that you feel are creatively extroverted that you're okay with, you put over here. And then all the things that you think, and you can see where this gets into some trouble, that you think is feminine versus what you think are masculine, right? Not that we're coming in and saying this is what they are, but you're the one picking that, so we avoid getting in trouble. So you put them for yourself. And then I'm a little bit more confused in the middle. So you have what is classically thought of as childlike and adult, and then
So the middle one, okay, so if you really here, I guess I got to click on my
because the
own tab.
talent versus individuality part's the part I'm wrestling with right now.
Like I said, I never really finished this. A lot of this was I kind of
Okay.
put things in place.
Yep.
But the main part of the center is me. Like that's why you see Bernard here dead in the center. Like
Okay. So you're
who
working to
is
come in on you. Yep.
like the core, the thing that I'm always telling people, who is your core self? Like what are some things that are just uniquely Bernard that aren't introvert, extrovert,
Okay.
masculine, feminine? It's just like who is Bernard? And like
Okay.
there's certain things about me that's just like I like beauty, you know, I love music. I'm romantic. I'm
Right.
creative. I'm philosophical. I'm imaginative.
No, I got
I
you.
like so the person I am that maybe can't ultimately be defined by anyone, but it's like I know me. So that's like the phrase that you like. I said like this is the core, and the rest of these are the appendages
Yeah.
on
So
your being.
where are the ones that are outside the circles that we would say are in you, right? Of the universe here of the Venn diagram, right? So in the universe of what's over here that's not inside a circle, are those not used? Are you not a big picture thinker, or do you just not have a place for that yet?
I was still organizing, like I said, a lot of this because I got like
Okay.
Christian, I got favors,
Right. So
yeah,
you're
valid.
clearly Christian and you're just not exactly sure where that goes. Is that what you mean?
Nah, I think I was just trying to figure out how does that
It may not. And so, in math and in logic, it would just be its own box outside of the Venn
right,
diagrams, right? Like when we think of like a trapezoid, right?
right,
Like, not a rhombus. It doesn't really fit well into like the definition of square, right? So we're like, oh, where does that trapezoid thing go with the cut
right,
off top? Like that doesn't, trapezoid actually is a really good one, right? It's like trapezoid doesn't really fit in the parallelograms. It doesn't
right.
fit in the, a lot of things. It's by itself.
Well, like I said, a lot of these things they're not on the outside for like any
Sorry.
reason. It's like, oh, I just never finished.
No,
Like
that's okay. Yeah.
I was just putting stuff on the map and it's like, okay, how does this go? So that like Christian would definitely be like a core part.
Right.
But that just gets into an interesting question of
Is
like,
it unto itself or not? Yeah.
well, there's this whole thing. There's this guy. He's I can't remember his name, but he started this I am movement, international art movement. And in his quote, he said, Jesus came to make people more. He didn't come to make them more Christian. He came to make them more fully human. So I think about this idea of like, oh, if there would never been any like sin, like we wouldn't refer to anybody as Christians. Like we would just
Right.
be human. So it's
Right.
almost like Christian is just like, hey, that's just to get you back to this idea of what you originally were was a human. So the Christian part, you could argue, is more like it is. I mean, it's a true thing, but it's also somewhat societal
Yeah,
label.
absolutely. And I
You
agree.
know,
I mean, another great question for this while you're on that topic could also be if you hadn't heard of Christianity at all, you
right?
didn't know there was Christ, how would these things change? Would be interesting for you to think about where you put the Christian part.
Or like what
Because
KR says, some of y'all ain't listening. Some of y'all listening ain't liking. I'm here to show you the difference between a Christian and a Christian.
right. Right. So yeah, I'd be interested to see where you go when you finish this thing up. And I think I have some ideas about this too. The math brain is working definitely heavy as I look at it. So I immediately, it's funny, just my own bias. I just immediately looked at this and I was trying to decipher what kind of math it was. Just because I saw the shapes and immediately I thought Venn diagram, right? And I see there's elements of it, and then I was like, okay, in a universal set, this is like, this is. I'm looking at region A, region B. I'm looking for the common intersection. I'm thinking about
Right.
the whole Boolean algebra that goes with it. And then I'm thinking about how I'm going to represent this and how I'm going to represent this in truth tables and how it's going to turn into matrices and what the vectors are. Yeah, I was getting really ahead of myself and seeing if it lends itself to that.
Well, look here.
And a
Oh,
part of it does. A lot of it does.
Well, like here on the right for creative extrovert, here's some things I listed. I think what I did too was I said, okay, what do I feel like I don't do socially that would be considered extrovert, but I do creatively
Mm-hmm.
extroverted. So, for instance, gracious.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to social stuff, I don't say I'm really gracious. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
look, you late, you get on my nerves. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't have time for you.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm very gracious, creative. I'm like, okay, yeah, let me show you how to. Okay, yeah, okay, no, you never rapped before. Okay, come on, man.
Yep.
I'll spend a lot of like. I'm very gracious and forgiving when it comes to creative things.
Yeah.
I'm open ended. I'm like, if somebody, like I said, if somebody would come up to me on a bus stop and just talk about whatever, I'm like, all right, go away. But if somebody came up to me and was like, hey man, you want to make a beat right quick? I'd be like, yeah, like I don't know you, but let's just make a beat, even if it's not great. Like, so
I'm
I literally
worse than you on that end. I'm like you. This guy asked me again yesterday to collab, and I was just like, oh god. I was like,
well,
how
I
do I say
mean,
no?
okay, no, yeah, to clarify, like there's definitely people who have tried to work with me, and it's like I was like, I don't want to. But what I guess what I'm saying is,
Once you get to the
I
creative spot, then maybe you do. But before then, it's going to be tough.
no, I'm thinking very contextually. Like literally, I always use the example of like at the bus stop or some short
Yeah.
term situation where you can't get out of. Oh, this person's trying to talk to me about the weather. Like I'm ready to leave.
Yeah.
Some people, but they're like, oh, a chance to meet a friend.
Yep.
How cool. They'll talk with them. I'm like, I don't want to.
What a nice day.
But,
Yeah.
but creatively, if
Here
somebody
we go.
came over and saw me on the phone making a beat and they said, oh,
are those beats by Dre?
if they wanted to collaborate on a beat or talk about beats, maybe I'm willing to sit there and talk to you for a long time. In fact, I'll probably keep the conversation going when they might be like, oh cool, thanks for showing me. Like, no, what, like, do you do beats? Like, do you want to make beats? Do you want to become a rapper?
Yeah.
Like, I'm literally trying to extend the conversation because I don't want it to end. And I think that's what we get trapped in socially. People, you're like, all right, well, I got to see you. And they're like, oh, but
the ultimate trap for me is exactly perfect one. I get this one. I don't have to be the bus stop. I'd be anywhere. And someone asked me what I do. I'm at the pool yesterday talking to one of my son's friends' dad. And they're like, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, here we go. And so, all right. So I lead with the rap stuff almost always, right? I lead with the rap stuff. And then when I say, and I go, here we go. Because I know that when you say math, that most people are going to be like, oh gosh, but I have this anxious excitement that the person might like math. And then I'm like, oh, this could be really cool. Like if this person likes math, this could be the highlight of my day, you know? But if the person doesn't like math, I almost feel like I have to defend myself. Like, why would you choose to do such an yucky thing? And I'm like, no, there's so many wonderful things. It's so beautiful. And it's when it's simple, and I'm not someone trying to make you feel dumb. And I'm not that person. Even though you're dumb if you don't like math. No, I'm just kidding.
You're like Brene Brown. She's like, I like to study shame. So she's like, that's perfect. So if I get on a plane, I get to decide how do I like want to draw people in or keep them quiet.
Right.
Like, what do you do? She's like, I study shame for a living.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, back to my magazine.
That'll do it. Yeah. If I want to lead with math, I know where that conversation is going to go. Just by the way you're dressed, what you look. I mean, it's so easy to sum up if a person even has a possibility to like math. Like you, I can look at you and go, Bernard is probably pretty math neutral. That's actually what I use. Like Bernard looks really smart, right? But you can tell once you hear him talk for 5 seconds that he's into big picture kind of like world kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, he's going to have an appreciation for it, but he's probably not a minutia person with the math. He's probably not like a typical mathematician. He gets it. He understands it. He's generally not a math phobe. You know, and I know enough about you to know that that's pretty accurate these days, right? But the opposite is also true. If you meet someone who has no interest in math, it takes like 6 seconds to know that. You know, it's like people be like, how did you know? It's like, dude, like I'm in disguise. I'm undercover. I meet all the things that you would say this person does not do math. You know, you have to know me for a while to be able to sense it. You know, it's not going to pop up. And that's what I love. I love when I'm wrong. I love when there's someone who's like, oh, and they're a math person. Oh my gosh, I had no idea. You must be just like me. Are you an introvert who's socially extroverted? Like, or are you introverted? You know, you have these questions and be like, how is it possible that I meet another mathematician who doesn't come off on? Then I have to go, wow, they're a really cool person because they remind me of me. And I'm like fascinated. You know, we are a little bit biased, I think. It's the same thing. I see an introvert a mile away. You know, see introverts miles away, and I feel badly though because I know that I'm probably more socially extroverted than they are. You know, because I've been able to get there through the process. And I'm like, oh, let me pull you along, you know, let me get you there so that you don't feel scared. You don't have to, you know, the math phrase is this. How do you know a mathematician? I screwed it up. I can't believe I forget how to say it. How can you tell if a mathematician is introverted or an extrovert? Actually, no. How can you tell if Well, I'm saying it wrong. Let's go with that one. Let's go with that one. How can you tell if a mathematician is extrovert or an introvert?
Something about a book. I don't know.
It's a little dumber than that, but there's some truth in it. A typical mathematician will just look down at their feet. An extroverted mathematician will look at your feet. It's like kind of like, it's like, or your shoes, they'll look down at it.
Right.
And there's some truth to that, right? Like,
It's funny.
Yeah, it's very, very true. I really hacked and butchered that, but you get the point, right?
Yeah, I just did a talk today on Clubhouse about, well, because I was thinking about the word when somebody's like, "Oh, I have a type," like dating, and then I was like, "Oh, typical." Like, yeah, you're very typical. So then I was like, don't be a typical person, be atypical.
Atypical, that's
So
dope.
be, so I was just talking about, like, some of what you're saying. There's always there are types out there, and I was saying exactly what you're saying. I could from the beginning be like, oh, those are my people, glasses, probably smart, blah blah blah. But I was like, but you could be wrong too. Like, but it generally is true that there's something about people with glasses and intellect. I don't know what it is. Glasses, books, it just comes. But I was saying, like, the main thing is, like,
I
you
have
got
both reading glasses and actual regular glasses. Just don't really rock them.
Well,
no contacts, by the way.
So I was like, you can connect with a person's type. It's like you have these outer frames that connect, but then like the inner whatever in the middle is their individuality. So like if you're looking back at my diagram, like even if you knew all this extrovert, feminine, masculine, introvert about me, it's like, oh, you still have to know Bernard, like down the middle. Otherwise, you're just gonna be like, oh, I didn't like his type. I didn't like his type. Like, well, of course, once you not know like a type, like there's a pattern. Like it's the whole point of types. So that's why a type can only take you so far.
You stereotype.
Stereotypes, archetypes. So the last thing I'll say and show, I found something a long time ago that I thought I bookmarked it and I still can't find it. And maybe it was this and they've changed it, but Adobe actually has this thing, creative personality types that you can take.
And they also have the creative cloud. How interesting.
The artist, the thinker, the adventurer, the maker, the visionary, the innovator, the dreamer, the producer. Honestly, I like all these words. So I'm like, yeah, I'm all of these. But yeah, you can take the test and see what you think you fall into. It's just questions like kind of like Myers-Briggs. But I swear a long time ago, did that share or not?
I can share it. Let's see. I see it peeking through there.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, just the Adobe site. You can go take their test.
I'm gonna do it.
But I swear a long time ago, no, I did. I found some site where I saw sort of like the circles I had, and I saw it said creativity and extrovert. I was like, oh my goodness, like I already discovered this. Like, what is this? I have no idea where this site is anymore. It was probably a site where I was like, oh, this is so interesting. I'm never gonna forget it. And then I didn't bookmark it. But the last thing I was gonna say about the types and the introvert, to what you were just saying, what was that? Or were you saying you're introvert, extrovert? What was the last thing you're saying? You were saying people know you're a mathematician.
You look at your feet or you look at the other person's feet. But in general, it's just that I expect that, when I have the conversation with someone, they found out I'm a mathematician. Here goes my opportunity for a great conversation. It's probably going to go the wrong way.
Right.
Yeah. Like this could be really great. We could be talking about math here. 80% of the time, that's going to be like, I sucked at math. Oh, I hate math. Oh, math's terrible. But I can look at you and usually tell. And sometimes I'll lead with the math one if I think it's a math person.
Right. Oh, so the last thing I was going to say was, I mean, we've talked about this before. It takes some work.
Generally, the more un-American you seem, the better chances you are that you're a mathematician.
Here's the thing that I always say, and it just, I mean, the truth is it requires some work. If you are social introvert, creative extrovert, you can pull that creative extrovertedness into your social introvert domain. It's just not always accepted or understood or easy to like connect quickly. Because I tell you all the time, that's what I am. Like when I'm in these social settings, I'm like, I'm not trying to do this. I'm literally just like, I told you I wore things that with a name tag that said guess my name or ask me a question. I was like, I'm not doing the name tag thing. I hate the name tag. We're going to turn this to a game. Or like I said, I took a stick into class. I was like, I need this stick to make my voice heard.
I find a unique spot to put the tag where it's technically on my body, but you can't see it. It's like
Yeah,
in the
stuff like that.
pocket. Oh,
You gotta like
I'm wearing it.
gamify.
I will not
Yeah.
wear a badge to work. Like I would can't do
You
it.
gotta gamify, or like one thing I used to when I would be sat next to someone at some dinner I didn't know, I definitely still wouldn't be the first to talk. If I was, I would say, "Hey, describe yourself. How would you describe yourself in 3 words?" Because I'm like, I want to know something about you beyond like what you do or the weather. And those 3 words give me a bridge to be like, "Oh, you say you're loyal. Like, what do you
Irritated.
do that's loyal?"
I'm here.
So yeah, you're gonna get people like that who like to do that, right? But like if you told me you're loyal, I could say, "Oh, okay, wow. So is loyalty like important to you in friendship, or like does that your top defining character, or like, or name
Loyal,
someone who's loyal,
fair.
or like name someone who you really admire." Like to me, these are questions that are not so deep where people are like, "Oh, well, this is too deep," but it's not so shallow where it's just like, and you're doing the, yeah, nice. So what I'm saying is, if you're a creative extrovert, you do have the extrovertedness in you. It just takes a little more muscle work to pull it from that creative zone to here, and it does cause some friction. But that's what I'm doing because like I can't take it.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't take it. I'm like, I'm gonna do something creative or game like
Yeah.
to like make this easier for me. And if you're uncomfortable, you're gonna have to be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I try to make my math classes as game-like as possible too, because I think that's where the most learning occurs, and it feels the least rote, and it feels like it's authentic, and everybody gets a chance to input, and it makes things move. If there's a game, I'm generally interested, and I'll leave it with this. My thought too, just ending on the game thing. You may have heard me say this before, but I think it's relevant. I don't have a killer mentality like the classic Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan kind of thing. Like I don't have that. I want to win, but I don't want you to lose. It's this weird thing where I don't want to suck. If there's a game that I can tie at, I'm generally very happy about it. Like I'm like, can we tie? Like I don't like people losing. Like I don't want to beat you in a game of basketball. I don't want you to beat me either. It's this weird thing where it's like I'm satisfied by like if we both could play and score 40 points each and it ends in a tie, I think that's wonderful. I don't have the I have to win.
Right.
But like I play Scrabble and I'm irritating because I can't stand the fact that people can't see the words that are there. Like, I generally like can't fathom losing in Scrabble, right? And so it's like, that's the one area where it's like, and someone almost always has to win and lose. And I'm like, if I'm down to like 2 pieces and you're winning by 8, I'm winning that game. I mean, there's no way I got 2 pieces. You're up by 8. I'm gonna beat you. It's like because I fail to. I will not just not look, like it's there. The answer's in front of me. I just got to find it. So, and I'm sure you're the same way, but I've been playing Scrabble with my grandmother and my mother at the kitchen table since I was like 7 and I could barely spell. I could spell pretty well 7, but they would destroy me. Right. And I get to the point where it was like, I will not lose anymore after I was beaten like 100 straight times. So I think you can teach somebody to have that killer mentality by beating them a bazillion times when they have no skill. And then you turn someone into that. But generally like in basketball, because I stunk so much, I never really had that I must destroy you kind of thing. I have that. You see it in me still. I want to get better, but I'm not like, hey dude, want to come have a free throw shooting contest? You want to shoot threes? And watch, I'm going to hit 18 out of 20 and you're going to hit 5 if you're lucky. Ha, 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 ha. Look how better I am than you. It's like, no, like I'm trying to get better than I was yesterday so that somebody can see, yeah, look, this dude got proficient at something he was crappy at. Not so that I can beat you and make you feel silly. Unless money is like it was my career or like in rap battling, this is where I make the exception. Like I'm going to make you feel stupid because I have to win. And if I don't win, I don't get paid. But it's not like in my inner nature to be like a rap battler. Right. It's just, it's hard to explain, I don't know if it's hard to explain. I think I explained it, but it's like, I don't have that, hurrah, I won, ha, ha, ha. Like, and then it's like, and what? It's like, what's next?
That's interesting. I'm gonna earmark that because I think that's an interesting topic for another episode. Competition, introvert, because I'm like you're saying, people wouldn't think it, but I'm competitive in certain ways. But sort of like you, like when I'm playing games with people, like I just want to have fun and win. Right. But I'm also competitive in certain ways.
Right. Like if we have a fight, like I don't want to get punched in the nose, but I don't want to hurt you either. Like I see some people they get in a fight and they like blood in their eyes and they got to kill. I'm like the person who's like, oh man, I hit you. I'm sorry, man. Let me pick you up. Like I hope it's all good. Like fair fight. Like you know what I'm saying. Like it's all good, right? Like I don't mean to, but I'm gonna learn how to make sure that I'm not gonna get punched. But at the same time, it's like you know, you don't want to hurt anybody. You know. And speaking of not wanting to hurt anybody, my son is here and he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to come in the show, but he kind of does, you know. So lucky you, Henry. We are wrapping it up.
We are done.
We are done,
Henry.
We are out of here. Right now, we're closing out show. We're gonna end with the theme song. Henry doesn't know the theme song.
Look how strong I am.
Wow, you are.
Wait, can you point the camera at me?
Can I point the camera at you?
Yeah.
No, you'd have to come around here because it's on the thing and it's all wired in and all that stuff. What is it that you're trying to show us? You watch out too. I broke a little piece of glass over there, so watch your little feet. Stay over here. I cleaned it up well, but what are you looking at?
Look.
Oh yeah, maybe I can show. I don't know. Maybe I can show that. Hold on. If it's only to that direction, I can. Let's see. I have to unplug this. We're gonna get a shot of Henry here doing whatever it is he's doing. I'm crushing stuff here. It's kind of smoky gray because there's no light.
Kind of black.
Yeah, there's no light. Hold on, let me put the light on whatever it is you're doing. What is it? Whoops. I'm knocking this whole screen off. This is... Oh, you know why? It's because this thing's in the way. I don't think I can avoid it. There he is. He's on the floor with his feet, holding a stick or a frame to a picture in his feet while wearing a Sonic the Hedgehog shirt.
Okay. Creative extrovert. There
Creative
you go.
extrovert. He's just a creative. He's just an extrovert. You know, we were talking about the other day about Henry, who's at the pool, and people are like, yeah, Henry's pretty like out. You know, he's.
Is that an extrovert?
He's kind of extrovert. Like when you're at the pool, you're an extrovert.
Extrovert.
But you're not an extrovert when you walk into a new space that you've never been. You're very introvert. You'll hold daddy's hand. Is an introvert better than an extrovert?
Yeah.
You know, Bernard and I would like to say so.
Why do you do a show about introverts?
Why do we do a show about introverts? Well, we do a show about introverts because we are classic introverts who in social situations are extroverts. In other words, we'll rap on a stage, but when we're in a public space, we might not be like, hey, everybody, look at me. Kind of like you are when you get to the pool and you see all your friends.
Daddy, look.
Yep. Yep. You were very introverted when you first went to school, went everywhere. You would be really, really quiet, didn't talk. When you went to Taekwondo, you were scared to go there. And now everyone's like, it's Henry. And when you're comfortable somewhere, you're really talkative, right? Much more so than daddy is. You have a lot more of mommy in you in that case, right? So mommy says so. And that's a good thing. So you're a little bit more socially extroverted than daddy, but you're very creatively extroverted as well. Would you like to explain the inner workings of the computer to everybody or no? Am I passing that? Yes, you would?
Computers operate by using ones and zeros.
That's my son. Yes, it is. Computer is operated by ones and zeros.
You're entirely new to using a computer and you don't know how computers work. Look.
What? Okay, that's nice that you can hold that with your feet. Well, we're about to end our show. Is that a good thing?
Yeah.
Okay. You can tell them all about Henry Danger sometime. We can do a whole show on Henry Danger where you review everything about Henry Danger. All right. I think it's time to go.
All right.
All right. Appreciate you hanging out with Henry and I for those last extended minutes.
Right.
All right. Let's find this outro, which is the intro. The Outroverse.